Okay,
Oh,
there you go, we're golden. All right, so to continue, the second bid is from Sebastian Remetta, and the company is Opus Partners. The high bid price is $751,500 with a buyer's premium of $75,150 for a total purchase price of $826,650. And the check is in here. And the check for 10% that matches. Okay. And then the third bid is from an anonymous bidder. Until we open it. Yeah. Oh, okay, and this bid is from La Chiesa, LACHIESA LLC, with a high bid price of $667,979.09, with a buyer's premium of $66,797.91, for a total purchase price of $734,777. And with the check for 10% included. And then the last bid is from, should be from AMBE Hotels. Yep, from AMBE Hotels, West Falls LLC. Secrecy on it. And this bid is for $786,363.64, with a buyer's premium of $78,636.36, for a total purchase price of $865,000. With the cashier's check enclosed. So those are the 4 bids. So it looks like we have a winner here, but I will make a motion to accept the bids for legal review.
Sorry.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. So that concludes the bid opening process, and we could not have done it without you. So thank you all.
Can we say what I'm hoping for? This is Carrie.
Yes, hello, so any comments or questions? We'll go back to that. Who has comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, Carrie.
Take the highest bid.
What's the, that we said?
She said, take the highest.
Oh, take that. Oh.
Yeah, all right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello?
Who is that? Yes, who is it,
Yeah.
please? Who is it?
This is Cheryl Kuchak. And I'm sorry, but I missed, who is the highest bid?
The highest bid is for $1 million from Rise Select.
Can you spell Rise?
RISE Select SELECT LLC.
And who is it being awarded to?
So we made a motion to accept all of the bids. And we will have legal review of those bids. And 2 weeks from now, we will formally vote on.
Well, at a future meeting, the board will formally award the bid once it's determined that we have a high responsive bid after reviewing all the documents.
And our next future meeting is June 27th.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Is there anyone else with any comments or questions?
Yeah.
Other than,
I'm sorry. Yes.
Other than the money, is there other criteria that we will be looking at in your?
No, we have to put it out for bid and it's the highest bidder.
Okay.
Yes, Todd.
does the 60 days start from today or the award?
The award, the award,
The award?
correct.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. This is Ryan Schmidt, and we're out of Minnesota. We'd be absolutely delighted to work with Middle Smithfield and make the golf course all that it can be. In my very limited interaction thus far, it's been nothing but positive, and we see so many just positive interaction and just fantastic things that can happen not only with the golf course, with the surrounding land. We're very, very excited to get our hands in there, get dirty, and start to, meet a bunch of you and just work interactively with the community.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Thank you for your bid.
Thank
So-
you, Ms.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so, Annette, can I ask you, is that the highest bid is from Todd?
What's wrong with her?
The highest bid we have received is from Rise Select, and Mr. Schmidt, who was just speaking, is a representative of that company.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Very welcome.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to step off, but we'll be in back soon enough, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I know.
Are there any other comments or questions? Yes, Patrice.
I'm going to head out, but I just want to say that this just feels amazing to just witness this because I was there from the very beginning with the selling of the golf course. And this is just great news, and I'm excited for where everyone as a township will take the project. And this is the best township that any entity to work with. So this is going to be great. I'm excited and best wishes.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you for all your hard work on this project. It's nice to see it go to the finish line.
Yes. Fire.
That's what
Quick,
everybody
catch
came
her
to get
for,
treasured.
catch her for an interview before she leaves. Is there anybody else with any comments or questions before we move on to anything else?
Thank you, being a resident in TCP. Thank you, supervisors. Thank you. We look forward to a great future. I love my township. Thank you.
And
That was Carrie.
Annette,
Is that you, Cheryl?
Yeah.
Yes, how can I help you?
What happened?
Okay, is there any other comments or questions from anyone on Zoom?
Hi, Annette.
I'm
That
sorry.
clerk?
I sprayed it today too, so there's no.
She didn't do herself.
Okay.
Annette,
Mr. Romero, are you, yes.
Hello?
I have a comment.
Yes, you have the floor, Mr. Romero.
How you doing? I just want to say that you, James, and your whole team was great to work with and lots of luck for it, but the township is good to have you guys running the show. You did a great job. So even though we didn't come out the top bidder, I just wanted your whole township to know that. You're
Well,
very.
thank you, Mr. Romero. I hope we have an opportunity to work together in the future.
All right, great. Have a good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Okay, are there any other comments before we, the treasurer is very anxious to give
I
his
thought that's what
report.
everybody came for.
I just wanted to say something quick. Having worked, with the prospects and getting them to this point has been a privilege. I mean, the quality is there. And I think the township should be very proud that we had 4 wonderful contestants get across that finish line, and can't wait to see what comes next. So good things coming, folks.
I have.
Thank you, James. Yes, Carrie.
Being on planning in our township, I am so proud of the things that we've got done from the time that we built our house here 23 years ago. We have grown so far. I'm so proud of this town. Every place you go, everybody knows that we're doing great things here.
Thank you, Carrie.
Hi, Annette. This is Zach Blue.
Hello, Zach. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm sorry I'm at work. I'm trying to kind of tune in and tune out here. I didn't hear who the winning bidder was. We can discuss that later, but I didn't know if the specifics were mentioned about whether or not they were going to, the winning bidder was going to keep it as a golf course or not.
I can speak to that. I'm go back.
The bidder is speaking. The bidding, one of the
Yeah.
bidders is.
Yeah, sorry. I'm a part of Rise Select. We do plan to keep it as a golf course. Yes.
Great. Awesome.
That is the high bidder, and that is not, as Mike was trying to say, Mike Dwyer was trying to say, it is not official yet until we officially do this. But
Right.
it does, like, we have a high bidder.
And that was at the 1.1 million, right?
Yes.
Less
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Kovacs, I appreciate you taking a plane from Minnesota to here with the bid and using our Dropbox out in front of the building to leave us the bid so that we can find it the next morning and then fly back. So thank you very much, Mr. Kovacs, for your efforts.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. And hopefully this works out and we get to work together. I appreciate it.
One
Yes,
more
Kim.
question. My husband's from Minnesota, so we're happy here.
That's great.
Well, I can chime in as well from Rise. You guys have a gorgeous piece of property. We just look to enhance it, work with the residents, and I cannot wait to meet you, Albert. You seem like you and I will get along great.
Well, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Schmidt. So, and we couldn't be more delighted because this puts over 409 acres back on the tax roll. New development provides jobs. It increases the local services tax, which we give to the fire and EMS company. It increases earned income tax. So this will eliminate the tax burden and decreases the expense of owning and operating a golf course and banquet hall. So the taxpayers should be very pleased. So thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments before we move on to the treasurer's report?
Can we move to the treasurer's report?
Anyone?
We move to the treasurer's report.
All right, Michael, you can do your treasurer's
Thank
report,
you.
please.
What you all paying for. Motion to pay from the general funds, $317,217.82. Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye. Motion from our sewer account,
A
109,000.
second, can you folks mute yourselves? Would you mind? Okay, thank you. Can you say that again, Michael?
Sure. Motion from our sewer account, $109,481.69.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Motion from our golf account, $27,346.55. Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye. That's all I have.
Thank you, Michael. Solicitors report.
Wasn't quite as exciting.
No.
I think it was just as exciting.
All right, now we're up to the solicitors report.
Thank you. The first item on my report is Article 11 of the draft zoning ordinance amendment that you've been reviewing and considering. Article 11 is the floodplain regulations. We did go over it briefly in a work session. This is just to ensure that there are no more questions or concerns from the board before we go and move on to the final article before advertising it, or before forwarding it to the county planning commission for review, which would be Article 4. So are there any
I
other?
was gonna say, it's the dreaded Article 4.
Yeah, we've been pushing the worst
Right.
for the last. So the question is, are there any other questions or comments on Article 11 from the board at this point?
No.
No.
Okay, so then the next one that will be before you for discussion will likely be Article 4. And that one will probably require some more in-depth discussions than we've had with the other articles. The next item under my report.
Nothing. You guys say Article 4 with dread, and I love our Article 4. That's where all the excitement is.
Yeah.
That's where the rubber hits the road.
You are correct.
The rest of this is just all window dressing.
So the next item on our agenda is the EMS Mutual Aid Agreements. Those draft agreements were forwarded to me. I've looked at them. We've spoken at a work session. I am not sure that's something the board necessarily wants to consider moving in that direction. You do have two resolutions before you later on the agenda this evening, which will set the guidelines for the fire tax funds as well as the EMS tax funds. In the event that the board wants me to spend more time looking through the draft mutual aid agreements that were floated to the township a month or so ago, now would be a good time to let me know. Otherwise, I was not planning on looking at it with the understanding that it may not be something that the township wants to proceed with at this time.
Personally, I'd like you to look at them, just so we know.
Okay.
The intent of the township being a party to those agreements was only so, I'll say it as politically correct as I can, so everybody plays nice. And then if there are any discrepancy between the providers, we could hopefully mediate that as we're a party to it.
Okay.
But if you feel it's too much of a stretch for the township, then we can ditch it, that's fine.
Okay, if that's the will of the board, then I'll review them and I'll provide comments.
That's my.
Okay. Okay, so I'll do that and I'll provide comments for a future meeting. I don't know if it'll be in 2 weeks, but I'll go provide comments.
No problem. Next week is fine.
We've got a lot of work to do.
And then the final item under my report is the request for proposals for a certified public accounting and/or accounting firm to act as the auditor for the municipal audit services. Michelle had indicated that the board would like to send out an RFP to get some proposals for from potential CPA firms or CPAs to perform the auditing or audit services associated with the second-class township of Middle Smithfield. So what you have before you is a form RFP. There are blanks. The blanks, I wasn't sure if you just wanted to do an RFP for one fiscal year, if you wanted to consider multiple at a time.
Yeah, we always do 3.
You do 3? Okay. That helps.
Actually,
And the
actually, it
first
has
year,
to start with this year,
so the first year would be 2024,
Fiscal
2024, correct?
fiscal 24, yeah.
Okay, so then what I'll do is I'll plug in some of those blanks, December 31, 2024, December 31, 2025, and then 2026.
Correct.
Let me see, there were some other additional, I suspect is Michelle and the individual at the township that will plug in with respect to the main contact associated with the auditor.
Will it be Bonnie?
Is Michelle the secretary? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
yeah, whatever.
okay. The date, do you know when you want these in by?
I would say before October. So we know it's budget.
September?
Sure.
September 1, September 15?
Whatever coincides with the meeting, that's fine.
Okay.
So it'll be September 12th.
Okay. That may be,
So it's all dates. Other than that.
I think that, or we'll plug in township secretary, Michelle. We got the dates, the 3 years, 23 through 26. I think that's it.
Okay.
If there's anything else I need to finalize it, I'll reach out to Michelle, but I think we can finalize it and send it out in the not too distant future and have it advertised to receive those RFPs on or before September 12th.
Great.
Okay?
Yep.
There's nothing else listed under my report. I do probably have some comments on items further on in the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. Engineers report, there is no engineer tonight, so there is no engineers report. Under old business, the first piece is the renaming of Sambo Creek. We just wanted to let everyone know that we have a page up on our website that's got a link to a Monroe County survey. They've agreed to take the survey for us. It's a creek that runs through 4 municipalities, and the subject was brought up to rename that creek. So public comment is being accepted until September 13th, 2024. 1 vote per IP address. So we just are keeping it there just to remind folks to give their public input. That brings us to.
Is there opportunity for public comment at this point? Or would you like me to wait later in the agenda?
Well, there is, you can make public comment, but it won't count in the survey because we're not going to enter it in the survey.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
So my name is Sonia Wolbert. I'm president of East Stroudsburg Borough Council. I have been on East Stroudsburg Borough Council since 2001. This effort to rename the Sambo Creek has come before us many times. And East Stroudsburg Borough Council has always been unanimously in favor of it, but it has failed because of dissenting municipalities. One of the 4 at one point in time has not agreed. We know that this name is offensive. Google it. The Washington Post did an article about it in 2021 about names in places that have names that are offensive in America. And it would be nice to just move forward. I'm not exactly sure how we have an additional public comment period. I know, Annette, you've led a lot of this charge. I've received, numerous emails from you about this.
I was just trying, not to interrupt, but I am just for a second. I mean, it was Smithfield, I think, that was leading the charge and had the page up and all of that. I just wanted clarity.
Right, okay, but I would really love to understand why we can't just move forward and do what's right, because when we know better, we do better, right? And I'm not a person of color. Nobody on your board that I can see is a person of color. So the offensiveness, while we may not find it offensive to ourselves, we are not the people that it is offensive to, that it was a slur to. And so I would really ask, because my understanding is that at this point in time, the other 3 municipalities are on board, that the township allow us to move forward with renaming this and doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Is there anybody else that has comment at this time before we move on to the next item? Yes, Carrie. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. We can't hear
Okay.
you.
Sonia, I understand your statement, but there is a person of color online here. I also am on planning and many other things in our community. I'm not, and I'm a history buff. You don't learn by erasing history. It may be an offense to you, but there is someone in our town who was raised by that nickname. There's also companies that had that nickname. We have gotten so oversensitive in America that you don't even know if you can say hello unless you address a whole bunch of names behind it. We cannot move forward by being this sensitive that we are. We have to learn from our past and do better in our future. There is history at that creek that we're not aware of or why it was. We also know that Harry Tubman moved through this area using code names for the people that she was moving out of slavery. And we do not know what that is. Also, you have to talk to the Native Americans or the indigenous people of this country about how they feel about that particular creek. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess it's good that we have public input and a place to collect it that will aggregate it, and we'll see which name the public has picked. The public comment period ends on September 13th, and the next meeting for this is Tuesday, September 17th. So I guess it's Alex Jackson that's gonna set up the Zoom or something for that. Is there any other comment before we move on to the next topic? Thank you both for your comment. Yes.
Oh, I have a comment, but not on that particular subject.
Okay, well, thank you both for your comment, Sonia. I appreciate it, and Carrie, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Annette, excuse me, this is Jane Gagliardo.
Jane, how are you?
I'm good, thank you so much. I came on board of this initiative when I became Borough Council member. And from what I'm getting and receiving some of the information from the people that have come to me in regard to renaming this creek, is that some of the history, yes, should absolutely include the indigenous people. Have we reached out to them? I understand some people have told me yes, some people have told me they've not commented. So if your consensus says that they, absolutely should be included, and I don't disagree, whom, and if I may ask Ms. Weatherby if she in fact would know how to get in touch with any of those particular tribes that might be interested in hearing this.
There is National Tribes. The headquarters is out in Oklahoma, but this is the Lenape's land that we sit on. And there are ways, I also serve on the Monroe County Historical Society. There are ways for us to give you those contacts if you need to get in touch with them. All of this goes back to even the Department of Indian Affairs. So it's not that simple to just erase a map and change it because someone's offended. So there are many ways you can contact the Monroe County Museum for information of how to reach out to the tribes.
And oh, sorry. And who would I ask for to get that information? Because I'm not gonna lie, there's been many individuals that have come forward in regard to this issue. So I'm just trying to satisfy this question, and I vehemently agree with having it on our websites and getting input from all of the community.
You can just call the museum and tell them the subject that you're interested in talking about, and they will lead you.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that.
Can you guys, yeah, so if you need more information about that, perhaps you can continue that conversation offline for it, okay? So thank you for your comment. Yes, Mr. Coleman.
Yes, on CCP North, we have a Indian grave site on our property. And 3 years ago, a representative from a conservation someplace, I have the name and address. I can give it to the township and they can forward it to you. But there's something relevant.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I would appreciate that, Annette, if you would forward that on to me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so does anybody else want to bite at the apple before we move on to Revitalize? Okay, so James, we're now on to your neck of the woods with Revitalize 209 grant application for consideration. The board has in your packet a memo from James regarding the completed application for Marathon Studios. So Marathon is here this evening, and they were able to have their quotes broken out between the two parts of their project. Part one was the landscaping, and part two was the billboard structure facelift. So that is on here for discussion and possible action tonight. The landscaping project is to landscape that portion of 209 around their billboard. The cost estimate is $12,600. The grant request is $6,300. The committee, we have a member of the committee here tonight, Deborah Emmon. The committee gave this a score of 3.92 out of 5 regarding how this would impact the visuals of Route 209.
I'll make a motion to award.
I would
What?
just confirm that they've satisfied the requirements of the.
That's what we have here. I'll make a motion to award application 1.
I'll second the motion. Is there any comment from anyone, including Marathon?
Where that parcel.
Remember where Delta Homes was?
Yeah.
Delta Homes, and that billboard that's there, that's the area. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
And just to reiterate, this is a preliminary approval, subject to compliance with all the requirements associated with the program and completing the project, submitting the bills.
That's exactly what I said.
So, James, I don't know if you have any comment or if Marathon Studios has any comment?
So the first one, is this the landscape or the?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer any particular questions about this or the second half. So we had originally submitted this as a single request for the sign structure on the property, and the property itself put up into 2 at the committee's request. That's the details. So we do have one bid that we broke up. We're expecting some others. We had some difficulty in getting people to time. I'm hoping we don't have that much difficulty getting people to do the work once we have confirmation, but that needs to be seen. So I think this would be a benefit to the corridor. I think this is a great program. I'm very glad that Smithfield decides to do this. So we have no financial benefit really that's coming out of this. Both sides of that board are leased out long term, but I live in the area and I would love to invest and make it look nice.
Thank you. All right, there's been a motion and a second, and we've had some comments. Are there any more before we move to vote? Anyone? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then as far as the second application, well, congratulations. But as far as the second application, that is for the board structural facelift, which is painting the scaffolding, update the lighting. You can see the notes in your packet. The cost estimate is $8,400 and the grant request is $4,200. The committee gave it a score of 1.58 out of 5. And there's a reminder for you at the bottom.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve for discussion purposes.
Well,
I'll make
okay,
a motion to approve.
I'll second for discussion.
Right. So my question is, these improvements, does it make the billboard more non-compliant?
No, actually, it will make it less non-compliant, specifically the lighting upgrades. So we do not have suitable shading on one side. So we'd like to add that to ensure that it's more in compliant with the dark sky requirements. Also, the decorative trim that we tend to add at the bottom of the billboard will also serve to prevent lights on one side from leaking over the other side. The rest of the improvements won't really affect the billboard from a conformance standpoint. Anyway, it's not going to make it larger. It's just going to replace decaying components and try to make it nicer.
Well, actually, to be dark sky compliant, I think your lighting has to point down. I understand the baffle is like a retrofit or a Band-Aid to it, but I think it would need to be down lighting for it.
And I actually would have, I'm hoping to have Hartman Electric give me a quote on this. I didn't have it. I don't know if it's possible to adjust after the fact, but I would also be happy to consider changing that.
Okay.
I don't know if it's too late.
So what I would suggest is, so it sounds like, I'm not familiar, but it sounds like it's a pre-existing non-conforming sign or a non-conforming sign nonetheless.
Right.
And this is more than just landscaping, this is a structural improvement. And I'm looking at least what's in the packet, and it was a telephone quote. Looks like it was filled in maybe by you. Did you fill this in?
For which,
for Bago Construction?
Yes.
Did you receive anything in writing from them?
So he provided me with a written quote, but it was all in a single document. I was told these had to be separated, so they could be considered separately. So I took the line items that he provided in PDF, I separated it into those telephone quotes.
I mean, what I would suggest is maybe so the board can make a more informed decision is to request that they provide a more specific, itemized or descriptive quote or estimate from the contractor or the contractors that they've reached out for that particular project.
So I think based on what I quoted, it's copied word for word from the, and I'm not sure if that's in your packet.
And I think the issue is that wasn't descriptive or specific enough to understand exactly what's being proposed, so.
So to answer that, so our proposal isn't to move the lighting from the bottom to the top, the lighting currently exists.
And what I'm saying is probably to get something in writing in front of the board that specifically says that, as opposed to you sitting here telling the board that.
It does specify it, it's just adding backscatter protectors. It's not moving lighting. What I was stating is I would be willing to adjust that.
Well, is there somebody, does the committee want to say anything, or James want to say anything, representative, that the committee had felt of why it got a 1.58 out of 5?
I can't speak for everybody that is on it. I can only speak for myself. I think when we were presented with the project, at first it was one project. It wasn't a two. So when we asked them, and this sign obviously is grandfathered, it's not the sign size that the rest of the, so there was an aesthetic issue, and I think that's where it came up, like, wasn't that it?
So we had split it based on request before we came to committee. My understanding, because I had asked the same question, some of the committee members were not sure if this revitalization project should be for signs. People were concerned it's an existing non-conforming sign. My rebuttal to that is these aren't structural improvements, it's facade improvements, and there is no specific line item for signs in the detail.
That's correct.
But
That's correct.
there is painting, windows, the equivalent for that for a billboard would be, you know, paint it,
Right.
update the lighting, which is a line item, et cetera.
Yeah, because the intent was to perhaps in the future come out with a separate grant for signs or something separate for signs. You know, and I remember some of the committee members saying they didn't want to spend the energy on something that was non-conforming. They'd rather, and that's the whole reason why the quote was split into two for that. So now it's been kicked to the board and the board would need to decide what to do. But that's what I remember. James? Well, maybe his battery died too. You know, but that's what I remember from the committee was that they did not want to invest in something that was non-conforming.
That was one.
Yeah.
So my response to that would be, I believe the billboard's obviously the most visible feature on that lot. The best thing that I can do to make that look better as it passed is exactly what I had proposed in the detailed project description that's attached to that. So, you know, I would absolutely be happy to reapply in the future if there is a sign-specific thing, but I believe these requested upgrades would go with the spirit and the goal of what this project is.
Can I just say, so eventually what we realized was aesthetically, to make that sign look better is part of this project. And that people driving by, I mean, I think we had this conversation when we were there. That at least, so the landscaping is obviously necessary, but making that sign also more conforming in terms of light, but also structurally, I don't mean to fix it, but I mean that it would look better. Was eventually why we approved it. Now, the numbers may not, but we did approve it to come to the board.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I get it. It's non-conforming, but the whole intent is to improve the corridor. I mean, you know, so aesthetics, you know, is a significant portion of that. You know, so listen, if it's gonna be non-conforming, it might as well look better than what it does. So, I mean, that's my take on it.
Well, the only item on here that makes it less non-conforming that I would request if you could get that from Hartman about the downlighting instead of the retrofit backscatter.
Yeah,
If that would be okay,
I
if you could do that. All right. I appreciate your patience. But look, you came away with something tonight. You came away with your landscaping.
So for this particular project, would you request I go back, get an adjusted quote, changing that line item from backscatter to up to the top?
Yeah. So, and in the spirit of that, I would make a motion to table this until we have that.
Second.
Could I get, assuming this is, you know, it's not gonna bring it over the limit, can I get a preliminary approval so that I can tell Hartman this is going to happen? I just need you to give me a quote. I'll go back and get a confirmed approval at the next month's meeting.
Not with him.
But you're close.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will be back next month.
Yeah. But look, you can start on your landscaping.
So I do have one more housekeeping question on that.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're still expecting Strausser and one other quote to come in, assuming these quotes are equal to or lower than the quote that I presented. It doesn't matter which vendor I go with.
I'm gonna say no.
No.
Well,
we're only paying 50%, so whoever you go with, you know, it benefits us or
The
whatever.
intent is the low bidder.
Right, right, but if you have a reason to knock out the low bidder, just
So
like.
you need to provide the township with
Right.
every quote you get and why, if you feel the low bidder isn't a responsible bidder.
Well, I'm expecting we'll get lower bids. Is what I'm hoping.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure seeing you here. Thank you. All right, so there's been a motion to table and a second. We've had our comments and questions. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So that brings us to new business, resolution 06-2024-1 for the procedure and disbursement of funds from the 0.5 mil fire tax.
Motion.
So,
Well, there were some changes.
yeah, very, very quickly, this is the fire tax resolution. You have a draft in front of you, proposed version. There was one blank, and the blank was, the fire company shall prepare an annual budget prior to the beginning of the fiscal year and provide it to the township for review on or before, and there was the blank. So my understanding after some preliminary discussions was it would be for review on or before 2 months prior to the end of the fiscal, to the end of their respective fiscal year.
Correct.
So we'll make that, we'll insert that language into that blank.
Okay, and I just wanted to point out that because Marshall's Creek Fire Company was uncomfortable with audits happening every year, the language is now, beginning in fiscal year 2024, the fire companies shall provide a full audit performed by a CPA, and thereafter, it will be performed upon request of Middle Smithfield Township. And I just wanted to point out, it'll probably be June of 2025 by the time we get the 2024 audit. And then it will take this board a month or two to review. So we will not be able to say whether or not there should be an audit for 2025 until like September of 2025.
Correct, but it wouldn't have to.
Instead of automatically
Right, but it
expecting
wouldn't-
the audit to be done.
Right, but they wouldn't be even commencing their audit until February of the next year. So.
Okay. Just
plenty of
making a
time.
comment.
Plenty of time.
Okay, so we have 3I with the new language of the annual budget due 2 months before the fiscal year of each company. Were there any other changes to this? I think that was the only one.
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve with that one change?
Motion.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. And the next one is resolution 06-2024-2, which is the same resolution for the EMS tax to establish the procedures for disbursement of funds from the 0.4 mil EMS tax revenue. And likewise, we have the same, we have two language changes. One is 3B. The EMS providers shall collectively provide EMS services. And the other is K, which will match what the fire resolution states, that the EMS provider shall prepare an annual budget to the beginning of the fiscal year and provide it to the township on or before 2 months prior to each company's respective fiscal year, because the EMS companies have different fiscal years.
Correct.
So
I think that in F, unless Debbie can help me, maybe it's part of G. I think that I would like to see something, and I already see it in the monthly packet, about the depletes.
I'm sorry, say that to me again.
The depletes, the calls that you don't, that the provider doesn't make.
Or.
Because they're.
Well, they're actually mutual aids.
We-
Okay, so we have mutual aids to other people.
Mhm.
So if we're doing mutual aids there, then they get sent here that kind of thing, so.
Well, I
wanna-
understand- I
just wanna
understand
give
that.
it the right term.
Yeah,
It's
so,
mutual aid.
but there are instances where you or Suburban can't respond. Somebody else has to respond.
Right,
And I
that's the
think getting
mutual
that
aid.
information on a monthly basis helps you, or seeing that helps you schedule appropriately, maybe. Maybe it's Friday afternoon at 5 that we need 5 ambulances on. or-
Everything is money.
Yeah, I know, I'm just,
You know, it's if we can get people to schedule their heart attacks, strokes, and falls all at the right times, it would
all
all
at the
work out.
nothing overnight, then we wouldn't need an overnight shift. Imagine how much day shift we
Yeah,
have.
that's right, only day shifts, you can only be sick during the day.
But I think it would be, and that already comes in your monthly report, so I
Right,
don't see
right,
a
we
problem.
provide it monthly anyway.
I just don't know, is that something that's required with in number, in G? Or is it something
I
that should be?
haven't seen, I haven't
Oh,
seen
okay,
it.
all right. Okay,
I mean, we can talk about that, I have no problem providing it, but I think do you get it from the others?
well, I think it's something that we're asking for from everybody, we don't get any of this information from the other.
Right, so, I mean, we have no problem providing it, the control center provides that report monthly. And then it's just a pass through to you.
That's true, I guess if there was any other report that we ever wanted, we could just go to Gary and his team, and they would print it out.
Right, I mean, I'll print it out for you just because that sounds good.
Okay, so is there a language change on G?
No.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve this resolution with the language change in B and K?
Motion.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, and next is resolution 06-2024-3, providing for the elected auditor compensation. I would make the motion to approve that, to increase their salary.
Second.
Any comments or questions? $18.
$18 per hour spent. And it's, to be clear, it takes effect, if there's a sitting auditor, it will take effect at their next term. It doesn't take effect during a current term, it has to be a
I think it's
future term.
$10 now, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
I think
So-
it's 10 right now.
Yeah, it's from $10 to $18 for the few hours that they spend a year. So now,
And there's a cap in the code.
so there's been a motion and a second and a question. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And Mike, I believe you have something regarding Green Light Go.
Yeah, make a motion to pay payment number 3 to contractor Telco. It was approved by Smithfield's engineer,
Is the third payment the one?
117,938.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me, I take that back.
136.
That's the remaining amount.
In 136,430, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Take a motion to accept the resignation of Kristen Willis from the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Well, second, any comments or questions? There's all in favor? Aye. That means there's a vacancy on the Parks Committee now. So if anyone knows anyone or would like to, maybe members of the Golf Committee would like to know. Yeah, would like to do that. Okay. The next is the request for proposal. Accept the request for proposals received for the sewage treatment operator. We had sent out a request for proposal for sewage treatment operators, and we received a response from our engineer. I don't know how we didn't do it, but our engineer pointed out that Prosser's proposal doesn't explicitly state how many hours and operators they plan to have. So I would make a motion to accept it, but ask them to be a little bit more detailed in that request for proposal. Our engineer recommends accepting this request for proposal from Prosser. So I would make that motion.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Make a motion to approve the application for fire hydrants at Timms Lake Road and Leroy Lane.
Oh, Mark seconds. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
The only thing, so the agreement that was sent to you by, who was it, Aqua? No, Pennsylvania American Water Company.
Right.
It's a form of agreement that they use.
Yep.
So no matter what I say, they're probably not gonna change it. I would just confirm that the cost associated with the installation and the equipment is not on the township for the fire hydrants, but I suspect, it doesn't specifically state this, but I suspect that the cost associated with any use of the water will be on the township.
Correct, that's how it is now.
Right, that's the normal, but it doesn't, there's, it's not specifically spelled out in here. So I would just suggest that if you want to just ask the.
So I will amend my motion to payable taxes.
Mark seconds. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, and letter H is a letter of support request received regarding the multimodal grant application. We don't have our engineer here this evening. I did ask a question about this multimodal grant application for the PennDOT HOP. I would make a motion to table this.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, and that brings us to public comment. Anyone have? Yes, sir.
I'm new to this, covering these meetings and that, but I have a question on, I talked to, I think, Sean, zoning officer, about firearm regulations in a residential area. And he said some townships have them, some townships don't, Middle Smithfield didn't. Is there any reason that there can't be some regulations to how far somebody can walk out of their house and just start shooting?
Well, to back up a second, the township does have something regarding parks, meaning on township property, you cannot discharge your firearm. My understanding on firearms, just because I've gone through this process before, for probably the same reason that you're asking, is that if you are hunting, there is a safety zone around structures, whether they're occupied or not. But if you are target practicing, there is no safety area.
I mean, right now I have a person just moved in, and I'd say he's maybe 150 yards from my house, and he does quite a bit of shooting, and I don't mind that. I'm not saying not have anybody shoot. What I'm saying is he moved where he shoots half the distance from the 150 yards to half the distance to my house now, which is closer yet. There's a safety issue, and I think the guy's safe, but more than that is a noise issue. When you're out there shooting for, and I shoot, I don't shoot where I live, but when you're out there shooting for half an hour and a half with semi-automatic weapons, it gets really nerve-wracking after a while. I think if nothing else, I think there should be a minimum distance of where one person can walk out of his house and shoot with some other person.
We do have a
150 yards, as the Game Commission puts on.
Right.
is reasonable to me. And you have to remember the 150 yards that they're shooting is a shot or two, not 100 or 500 shots.
Right.
Anybody that's been around shooting, I mean, it's really nerve wracking, even if you're used to shootings. If you have a gun going off 150 feet from your house multiple times, I just think maybe something that should be considered by the township.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. We would have to look at that for legal reasons. We have done that with the solicitor before, Pat. And now we'll ask Pat to look at that. But we do have a noise ordinance that you can try and address that. I think, Mark, it would be useful to ask Sean to provide what other municipalities have that he was speaking of. Because we had been told that you can regulate your own property, you can regulate, the Game Commission is the one who sets the hunting safety zone around structures, but that's it. The township did try to do something in the past for our building because schools and places of law, courthouses are the only ones that can forbid firearms from coming into them.
I don't want to forbid anything.
Yeah.
I just want.
I understand.
There be something there that I don't have to sit on my porch and 150 feet away, firing 500,000 rounds in an hour and a half.
Agreed.
I mean, I think there should be something to protect residents. It's not like when I moved here, well, I lived here all my life, but where I live now, I've been there 50 some years. And it was different back then. We didn't have any houses around, but now people are moving in, the kids are around, and I'm not saying it's a safety thing, but it's really annoying when somebody's out here at the parking lot shooting like that. It's nerve-wracking.
Sure.
Well, thank you.
I'm just suggesting that maybe they look into something that would work for everybody. I'm not saying don't let the guy shoot, but I think there should be a buffer. You know, not each, they will shoot 150 feet from your house. Or somebody walk out and the neighbor's 50 feet away and start shooting.
Right.
Thank you.
Just,
We'll look into
I
that.
appreciate you listening.
Or rather, Pat will look into it. Thank you. Is there any other public comment on anything else? Anyone on Zoom? All right,
Motion to adjourn.
second. Comments or questions? All in favor? Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John Pinto. Yeah, we'll reschedule all our golf meetings then.